Good morning, folks. Today you can see that I am not in the building. I'm over at the board office in some meetings today with Ms. Shanewell. So neither her nor I are here this morning. We will be back this afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and take you through your notes for today. The substitute should have already collected your homework from yesterday. And you should be working quietly on these notes and then the homework assignment that I'm going to give you at the end of these notes. Okay, so our warm-up today. Take a look at Zachary and Samantha. They are both trying to solve the same equation. I need to know who is correct and why. The first thing I want you to ask yourself is, looking at this equation, can I simply isolate the variable? And the answer to you should be no, because there's an x squared and an x, so therefore I cannot simply isolate. The next thing you should notice is that there's a squared here. Okay, so if there's a squared term, and I cannot isolate, I need to set this thing equal to 0. And that right there should go ahead and give you your indication of who is correct. Samantha is correct because she set her equation equal to 0, factored it, and then solved. Remember when we factor, we're making these parentheses here? So the first thing she did was set it equal to 0, and then she factored it. After that, she then set up her two equations and got her two answers. Remember, highest power of 2 means I should have two answers, and Samantha does have two answers for x done. Okay, moving on. Just reminders for you about our steps when we are factoring. First and foremost, we always look for a GCF. Remember that GCF has to be able to be taken out of everything. Okay. Then if there are 4 terms, we are going to group them. And you know by now that we're going to group them 2 by 2. If there are 3 terms, you know to make a binomial times a binomial. If there are 3 terms. Now, there's 2 types of problems with the trinomial that have 3 terms. The first way we learned was if the leading coefficient is 1. If that's the case, I just need factors of the constant. And remember, folks, the constant is the number that is typically on the end, and it does not have any variables. The next type of problem that we've talked about is if the leading coefficient is not 1. If that's the case, then I need to have factors of the product of first and last terms. Okay, and that's the way we've been working on since last Friday. Okay. One more reminder for you. Okay, 2 more reminders for you. How do I have 2 factors that are multiplied together to be 0? Remember, the only way to multiply together to be 0 is one of the factors must be 0. That's the only way to get 0 when we are multiplying. And the 0 product property tells me, in order to solve these equations where I cannot isolate, I first have to set it equal to 0. Then I need to factor it using the appropriate method. And then you're going to set up your equations and solve them. And we're going to go through and do some of these examples. And they're all mixed up today. Okay, some of them have a GCF. Some of them have leading coefficient of 1. Some of them do not have leading coefficient of 1. So we kind of got a whole lot of everything today. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I notice in number 1, I cannot isolate because it has x squared and x. Therefore, I have to set it equal to 0, which it is equal to 0. The next thing I'm looking for is a GCF. That thing does not have a GCF. The good news is that it starts with a 1, and it's a trinomial. So I'm going to make a binomial times a binomial, and that must contain x times x. Okay, since it starts with a 1 in front of the x squared, all I need is factors of 14. The constant. And those are my factors of 14. Remember, my most important symbol is here. I need to add to 9. So which of those factors will add to 9? Right here. 2 times 7 is 9. So I'm going to put my 2 in there, my 7 in there. That adding to 14 tells me my symbols have to be the same. And this in front of the 9 tells me I have to make them both negative. And now that I have my factors, it's easy from here. You can go ahead and set up your equations and solve them. And there are my 2 solutions. Now remember, folks, as you're going through this, please, please, please pause this video, replay it if you need to get all of your notes copied in. All right, number 2. Again, I notice that I've got n squared and n, so I can't simply just isolate. I have to factor this thing. I notice that there is a GCF here. I can take a 2 out of all of those terms. So I will go ahead and divide everything by 2, put my 2 out front, and this is now my new trinomial. Okay. It's a good thing I took that 2 out, because now in front of that n squared, you see a 1 in front of your n squared. Okay, that 2 is now on the outside. So now, since there's a 1 out in front there, I have my trinomial. I'm ready to make my binomial times a binomial. And since the 1 is out front, I only need factors of 15. There are my factors. My most important symbol tells me I need to add those factors to 8. And those are the factors that will add to 8. Because we are adding, that tells me my symbols need to be the same. And in front of that 8 is a negative symbol, so those symbols need to be negative. And now I'm ready to set up my equations. Now I have 3 factors here, so I'm going to set up 3 equations. But you will notice the first equation does not even have a variable. And 2 does not equal 0. So this thing will not give me an answer. And then we'll solve the other 2 like normal. And you'll notice that I had 2 answers because my highest power is 2. Okay, moving on to number 3. Very similar again, because I do have 2 different variables. I have r squared and r. So I can't just isolate. I need to factor. That is a trinomial. Okay, I'm going to look for a GCF first, and I notice that negative symbol out front. So I'm going to divide everything by -1, like it's my GCF. Put it out front and divide. Remember to be careful with your symbols, because we are dividing by a negative. And there's my new equation. Now look at that trinomial. The first coefficient in front of the r squared is a regular old 1. So now I'm ready to go ahead and make my binomial times a binomial. Because that number in front of the r squared is 1, I only need factors of a constant, and my constant here is 40. So what are my factors of 40? Excuse me. So by now, hopefully you're getting really good at doing these factors. All right, my most important symbol is on my constant right here. It tells me to subtract to 3. So here are my factors that will subtract to 3. And since we are subtracting, that means my symbols need to be different. And in front of the 3 is a positive, so that means the bigger one has to be positive. And now I'm ready to set up my equations. There will be 3 of them. The first one will not give me a solution. And the other 2 I'll just solve like normal. And there you have your 2 solutions. Okay, so all of these here on the front were already set equal to 0. And once I got done taking out a GCF, they all had a leading coefficient of 1. So therefore, I only needed factors of the constant. Let's go ahead and flip it over to the back. Again, here you will notice I have x squared and x, so I can't simply isolate. It is already set equal to 0 for me. So the first thing I'm going to try and do for factors is take out a GCF. In fact, you can take out a 10 and an x from both of these terms. That 10x goes out front, and now we divide. Notice, folks, now inside my parentheses, I just have a binomial. And you also should notice there's no more square terms. So we are done factoring. Those are my two factors. So now I'm ready to go ahead and set them equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so you should realize here, folks, if you take out a GCF and then there's no more squared things left, you're all set. You're done factoring and ready to move on. All right, number 5. This time we are not so lucky that it's equal to 0. Again, we cannot isolate because of the a squared and the a. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the other side so it is now equal to 0. In order to factor, let's look for a GCF. I can take a 15 and an a out of both of those equations. So that's going out front, and now we'll divide. Notice what taking out that GCF did. I no longer have a squared term, and it's just a binomial in there. So I am now ready to set up my two equations that are equal to 0 and solve them. Again, 2 answers because my highest power was 2. All right, moving on to number 6. Now, I'm really liking number 6. The first reason is because it's set equal to 0. The second reason is because you already see those parentheses up there, so that means it's already been factored for you. So our job becomes very, very easy. Because we already have those factors, we're ready to go ahead and set up our equations to solve. And now you're ready to isolate the variable. So the hard work was essentially done for you here in this problem. And there are your 2 answers. Now you might be thinking, well, Mrs. Cannon, I don't see a power of 2 up there, so how can there be 2 answers? But folks, with those parentheses, that's multiplication. And if you were to distribute that thing 4 times, you would end up with a y squared. Hence, you should have 2 answers. All right, let's move down here to number 7. The good news is that we are equal to 0. The bad news is that we cannot isolate because of the h squared and h. This is a trinomial, so I know I'm going to have to look for a GCF, and in fact, there isn't a GCF. And therefore, I need to make my 2 binomials. Now, my problem here, folks, is that my leading coefficient is a 3. That means that I don't just need factors of 16. You actually have to multiply these 2 together. Okay? And 3 times 16 is 48. So I actually need factors of 48. And there are your factors of 48. Now, my most important symbol tells me I need to subtract to 2. Which of those factors will subtract to 2? Right here. Now, if you remember, folks, from the beginning of this week and last Friday, because that thing starts with a 3, and I had to multiply those m2 together, I need to actually make this into a 4-term problem. Okay? I'm going to keep my 3h squared, and now I'm going to put in these factors over here that I found. Remember, because we were subtracting, the bigger one has to be positive. So my bigger one here is 8, so I need to have a positive 8h, and then the smaller one will be negative, negative 6h. And I drop down my minus 16 from my original problem. And now, folks, this is a 4-term polynomial, so I'm going to need to group these. All right, I can only take out an h from the first group. And it looks like that. The second group, I need to start with a negative, and I can take out a 2 from both of these. So I'm going to be dividing by negative 2. When you divide, be careful of your symbols. And I get that. Now we're ready to fill in that binomial that we created up top. So my repeated factor is 3h plus 8. My leftover factor is h minus 2. And now that's the hard part. The easy part is setting up your equations to solve. Isolate your variables. And we have our two answers. All right, let's try another one like that. Number 8 needs to be set equal to 0. Make sure we're putting it in the right order. Okay? There is no GCF. My leading coefficient is 15. That means I need to multiply the 15 times this 2, and I'm going to need factors of 30. To go into my binomial. All right, my most important symbol was this minus. I need factors that will subtract to 1. There they are. Now remember, because I multiply the first and last terms together, I'm going to make a 4-term problem. So we're going to keep the 15n squared. We are going to look at my symbols, and that subtraction tells me that they need to be different, and the minus tells me the bigger one needs to be subtraction. So the 6 is the bigger one, the 5 is the smaller one, and this is now my new problem. Okay, with 4 terms, we're going to group. I can take out a 3n from the first group. And when I divide, I get that. Now we start with a plus symbol. I can't really take anything out of the second group. The only thing I can take out is a 1. So we will be dividing by 1. Remember, folks, that dividing by 1 does not change anything about that problem. Okay, so now we have our repeated factor to fill in, and our leftover factor, and we're ready to set up to find our two answers. And there they are. Now, folks, I don't care if those are in fraction form or if you leave them in decimal form. It doesn't really matter to me, as long as you do have the right answer there. All right, let's keep moving on here. Number 9 is set equal to 0. There are no GCFs. My leading coefficient is an 8 with a trinomial. So that means I'm going to have to multiply these two things together, and I need factors of 24. And there we are. Okay, so let's make these so I have them. And now I have to change that into a 4-term polynomial. Well, my most important symbol tells me to add my factors to 10. These are the factors that will add to 10. So we're going to keep the 8q squared. The adding to 10 tells me they need to be the same symbol, and the minus in front of the 10 tells me they both need to be negative. And here's my new problem. This thing will need to be grouped because it's now 4 terms. And I can take out a 4q from the first group. We're going to start with a minus sign on the second group, and I can take out a 3. Now remember, folks, it's minus because we started with a minus, so be careful of your symbols. And there we are. Okay, let's fill in those binomials up top. My repeated factor and my leftover factor. And now we set up our equations to solve. Again, I don't care if you have a decimal answer or a fraction answer as long as you've got the right answer. Okay. I think we've got one more row to go. Number 10. Good news, it's set equal to 0. Bad news, there's no GCF. More bad news, it starts with a 6. So if I am going to make my two binomials, because that thing starts with a 6, I got to multiply these two things, and now I need factors of 18. My most important symbol tells me I need to subtract to 7. And because we multiplied the first and the last, I need to change this into a 4-term problem. The subtracting to 7 tells me they need to be different, and the plus in front of the 7 tells me the bigger one has to be positive. And here we are with our 4 terms. We will group, and let's see what we can take out of that first group. I think we can take out a 3m. Divide. Start with a minus sign. And I don't think I can take anything out but a 1. Remember that 1's going to have to be negative because we started with a minus sign. Be careful with your symbols here. And we're ready to fill in our repeated factor and our leftover factor. And now we're ready to solve. Negative 1.5. I think maybe I'll leave this one as a fraction. 1/3. Okay, folks. Moving over to number 11. Now, if you look at number 11, they are certainly not equal to 0. So you have two options. You can either subtract the 9z over, or you can add the 6z and subtract the 15. I think I want to keep my z squared to be positive, so I'm going to go ahead and move both of these to the other side, making sure I put them in the right order. Now, if I look at this thing, there is a GCF that I can take out. I can take out a 3, which makes my numbers a little bit smaller, which is always good when we are factoring. Divide a 3 out of all of those. Okay, so now I've got a trinomial. The leading coefficient is a 3, so I got to multiply these guys together. And I need to have factors of 15. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make my binomials to fill in. Notice I kept that GCF of a 3 out front. My most important symbol tells me I need to subtract to 2, which would be those. Okay. Now I'm going to set up my 4-term problem. Keep the 3z squared. Subtracting a 2 tells me my symbols need to be different, and the bigger one needs to be positive. So I'll fill in my factors for my 4-part problem, and now we will group. The only thing that can come out of the first group is a z. Start with a minus sign because the next term is a minus sign. And the only thing we need to take out of here is a 1. So I'm going to be dividing by negative 1. Divide. And we're ready to fill in our binomials. Here's my repeated factor. Here's my leftover factor. And the last thing to do is to set up your equations. This first one is not going to give me an answer, and I'll just go ahead and solve the other two like normal. Here we have our two answers. All right, these have done some pretty lengthy notes today. Let's do one more, and we'll be good to go. All right, number 12, good news, it's set equal to 0. Bad news, I got a 3rd power in there. And you will notice that you can divide out an x off of all of these terms. So that will be my GCF. And now we are back down to a squared problem. You will notice that your first term in front of the x squared is a 4. So that means I need to multiply these. And I need factors of 12. My most important symbol tells me I need to subtract to 4. Those will subtract to 4. So I'm ready to make my 4-term problem. Keep the 4x squared. Subtracting the 4 tells me my symbols have to be different, and my bigger one needs to be positive. We're ready to group. And the first group can have a 2x taken out. Divide. Start with the minus. Now the only thing I'm going to take out of these is a 1. That's going to be negative because I started with a negative. And there are my groups. So fill in your factors, my repeated factor, and my leftover factor. And now we're ready to set up our equations. All right, good news. The first one's done for you. The x is already isolated. And you'll notice you have 3 answers because the highest power in the original problem was a 3. So it should make sense that you have 3 answers. Okay, so that's it for our notes today. Let me get you your homework here. Your homework is going to be page, now give me a second here, let's see what it's supposed to be. I'm going to look up the page number, but I know it's number 60 to 63. Well, let's put that in there. Let me take a look here in my binder and see what page I want you guys on. It'll be page 533. And that will be your homework that will be due tomorrow.